Good evening and welcome to our daily devotional reading. Goeiemorgen. I hope you had a good day or a lekker aand te slaap. Let's quiet down. Shake the day off of us. Let it all be. What will be, will be. Que sera, sera. Sip some tea. And let's read Plato. Stranger. And we have already admitted in what preceded that the Sophist was lurking in one of the divisions of the likeness making. For the first time in a long time, there's a white moth against my window pane. Theotetus, yes. Stranger. Let us then renew the attempt, and in dividing any class, always take the part to the right, holding fast to that which holds the Sophist, until we have stripped him of all his common properties and reach his difference or peculiarity. It only says peculiar, but then we may exhibit him in his true nature, first to ourselves and then to kindred dialectical spirits. Very good. You may remember that all art was originally divided by us into creative and acquisitive. Theotetus, yes. Stranger. And the Sophist was flitting before us in the acquisitive class, in the subdivisions of hunting, contest, merchandise, and the like. Very true. But now that the imitative art has enclosed him, it is clear that we must begin by dividing the art of creation, for imitation is a kind of creation, of images, however, as we affirm, and not of real things. Quite true. In the first place, there are two kinds of creation. What are they? One of them is human and the other divine. I do not follow. Every power, as you may remember, our saying originally, which causes things to exist, not previously existing, was defined by us as creative. I remember, looking now at the world and all the animals and plants, are things which grow upon the earth from seeds and roots, as well as the inanimate substances which are formed within the earth, fusile or non-fusile. Shall we say that they come into existence, not having existed previously, by the creation of a god, or shall we agree with vulgar opinion about them? What is that? The opinion that nature brings them into being from some spontaneous and unintelligent cause? Or shall we say that they are created by a divine reason and a knowledge which comes from God? Theaetetus. I dare say that, owing to my youth, I may often waver in my view. But now when I look at you and see that you incline to refer them to God, I defer to your authority. Stranger. Nobly said, Theaetetus, and if I thought that you were one of those who would hereafter change your mind, I would have gently argued with you and forced you to assent. But as I perceive that you will come of yourself and without argument of mine to that belief which, as you say, attracts you, I will not forestall the work of time. Let me suppose, then, that things which are said to be made by nature are the work of divine art, and that things which are made by man out of these are work of human art. And so there are two kinds of making and production, the one human and the other divine. True. I will not forestall the work of time. Then now subdivide each of the two sections which we have already. How do you mean? I mean to say that you should make a vertical division of production or invention, as you have already made a lateral one. I have done so. Then now there are in all 4 parts or segments, 2 of them have reference to us and are human, and 2 of them have reference to the gods and are divine. True. And again, in the division which was supposed to be made in the other way, 1 part in each subdivision is the making of the things themselves, but the 2 remaining parts may be called the making of likenesses, and so the productive art is again divided into 2 parts. Theaetetus. Tell me the divisions once more. Stranger. I suppose that we and the other animals and the elements out of which things are made, water, fire, and the like, are known by us to be each and all the creation and work of the God. True. And there are images of them, which are not them, but which corresponds to them. And these are also the creation of a wonderful skill. What are they? The appearances which spring up of themselves in sleep or by day, such as a shadow when darkness arises in the fire, or the reflection which is produced when the light in bright and smooth objects meet on their surface with an external light, and creates a perception the opposite of our ordinary sight. Theaetetus. Yes, and the image as well as the creation are equally the work of a divine hand. Stranger. So, light reflecting on water? Stranger. And what shall we say of human art? Do we not make one house by the art of building, and another by the art of drawing, which is a sort of dream created by man for those who are awake? Quite true. Stranger. And other products of human creation are also twofold in their pairs. There is the thing with which the art of making the thing is concerned, and the image with which imitation is concerned. Theaetetus. Now I begin to understand and am ready to acknowledge that there are 2 kinds of production, and each of them twofold. In the lateral division there is both a divine and a human production. In the vertical there are realities and a creation of a kind of similitude. Stranger. And let us not forget that all the imitative class, that of the imitative class, the one part was to have been likeness making, and the other fantastic of appearances. If it could be shown that falsehood is a reality and belongs to the class of real being, so fantastic being a falsehood, appearances versus reality. Theaetetus, yes. And this appeared to be the case, and therefore now, without hesitation, we shall number the different kinds as two. True. Then now let us again divide the fantastic art, the appearance-making art. Where shall we make the division? There is one kind which is produced by an instrument, and the other in which the creator of the appearance is himself the instrument. What do you mean? When anyone makes himself appear like another in his figure or his voice, imitation is the name of this part of a fantastic art. Yes, let this then be named the art of mimicry. Mimicking, and this the province assigned to it. As for the other division, we are weary and will give that up, leaving to someone else the duty of making the class and giving it a suitable name. Theaetetus, let us do as you say, assign a sphere to the one and leave the other. Stranger, there is a further distinction, Theaetetus, which is worthy of our consideration, and for a reason which I will tell you. Let me hear. Stranger, there are some who imitate, knowing that they imitate, and some who do not know. And what line of distinction can there possibly be greater than that which divides ignorance from knowledge? There can be no greater. Was not the sort of imitation of which we spoke just now the imitation of those who know? For he who would imitate you would surely know you and your figure, naturally. And what would you say of the figure or form of justice or of virtue in general? Are we not well aware that many, having no knowledge of either, but only a sort of opinion, do their best to show that this opinion is really entertained by them, by expressing it as far as they can, in word and deed? I'm going to reread that, because I'm not sure that I understood it. And what would you say of the figure or form of justice or of virtue in general? Are we not well aware that many, having no knowledge of either, but only a sort of opinion, do their best to show that this opinion is really entertained by them, by expressing it as far as they can, in word and deed? So virtue signaling. Theaetetus, yes, that is very common. Stranger, and do they always fail in their attempt to be just when they are not, or is not the very opposite true? The very opposite. Such a one then should be described as an imitator, to be distinguished from the other, as he who is ignorant is distinguished from him who knows. True. Can we find a suitable name for each of them? This is clearly not an easy task, for among the ancients there were some confusion of ideas, which prevented them from attempting to divide genera into species, Therefore there is no great abundance of names. Yet for the sake of distinctness, I will make bold to call the imitation which coexists with opinion, the imitation of appearance, that which coexists with science, a scientific or learned imitation. Theaetetus: granted. Stranger: the former is our present concern, for the Sophist was classed with imitators indeed, but not among those who have knowledge. Very true. Let us then examine our imitator of appearance, and see whether he is sound like a piece of iron, or whether there is still some crack in him. Let us examine him. Indeed, there is a very considerable crack, for if you look, you find that one of the two classes of imitators is a simple creature, who thinks that he knows that which he only fancies. The other sort has knocked about among arguments until he suspects and fears that he is ignorant of that which is due, which to the many he pretends to know. There are certainly the two kinds which you describe. Shall we regard one as the simple imitator, the other as the dissembling or ironical imitator? The sincere and the insincere, the other translation said. Very good. And shall we further speak of this latter class as having one of two divisions? So is it the one that doesn't know, but knows he doesn't know? Cannot be. Answer yourself. Stranger: upon consideration, then, there appear to me to be two. There is the dissembler, who harangues a multitude in public in long speech, and the dissembler who in private and in short speeches compel the person who is conversing with him to contradict himself. What you say is most true. And who is the maker of the longer speeches? Is he the statesman or the popular orator? The latter. And what shall we call the other? Is he the philosopher or the sophist? Theaetetus: the philosopher he cannot be, for upon our view he is ignorant. But since he is an imitator of the wise, he will have a name which is formed by adaptation of the word sophos. What shall we name him? I am pretty sure that I cannot be mistaken in terming him the true and very sophist. Stranger: shall we bind up his name as we did before, making a chain from one end of his genealogy to the other? Theaetetus: by all means. Stranger: he then who traces the pedigree of his art as follows, who belonging to the conscious or dissembling section of the art of causing self-contradiction, is an imitator of appearance, and is separated from the class of fantastic, which is a branch of image making into the further division of creation. The juggling of words, a creation human and not divine. Anyone who affirms the real Sophist to be of this blood and lineage will say the very truth. Diaetetus. Undoubtedly. Thus far our scripture of the evening, and thus far the Sophist. I recently read about ancient Greek music. The thing that I can't say, L-Y-R-E, what probably developed into the guitar. And they worked a lot with division, how they classified their notes. Like this is, and then they divide it by 2, and then they get the next. And then they divide that by 2, and they get like the quarter note type of thing. But they didn't really work with quarter notes. But it kept dividing into like 2, 2, 2. So this division into 2 is a very Greek thing. I've only briefly and superficially read it. So please forgive me for pretending to have knowledge that I do not actually have. I wrote down, no comment on the creation question. And drawing as a wakeful dream or dreaming awake. That is interesting and something to consider to those who draw. And acting as an appearance-making art. Now, as someone who has let me tell you a story. There once was a girl who was incredibly shy. Once she became self-conscious. Before she was self-conscious, she was incredibly not shy. Very cheeky, you might even say. But one day she happened to have been on stage in a school play. Very small. Background. Singing in the choir. And yet she acted her heart out. And her mother noticed that she is not shy when she's on stage. So wherever they went, because they moved around a lot, her mother would find a drama school so that this little girl could act. Until the little girl became a less little girl, a bigger girl, and she could audition for roles and did not have to attend drama school to be able to play someone she is not. This little girl is me. I am the little girl. And so acting has become my way of interacting with people, with others, from a very young age. acting as appearance making. And indeed, the sophist is one who acts as if he knows, while he doesn't. But I want to play with that idea of imitation of appearance, so an imitation of an imitation, and learned imitation. Because I think there's something in this learned imitation of what Vervaeke would call serious play, and which is what I'm trying to do here. Trying to imitate, acting as if, playing as if you are a character you in some way aspire to be. Not to fool people, but almost an Aristotelian habit forming, if that makes sense. Playing the character that is like the character which you would like to be. And indeed, Plato does not dish this imitative or this learned imitation. He leaves it for a further discussion by someone else. And maybe there's something of the philosopher in that. Imitating who or what. Maybe that was why Plato was so against the Homeric gods, because they were not worth imitating, that's for sure. I also wrote down maybe the philosopher acts from a sort of divine creation, because Plato often writes about divine madness, and our poets, for instance, are inspired. And Socrates sometimes speaks as if, or says at least, maybe ironically, that he is speaking under inspiration or from inspiration. So how do we do this? How do we seriously play the character we want to be and not act as if we are that character? How do we keep it honest? Also to ourselves, because I think it's easier sometimes to fool yourself than to fool others. And that is why I'm most wary of interpretation of synchronicities and the like. I have fooled myself so many, many times, I'm afraid. I scare easily. I recover easily as well. So no worries. Yes, this seems like a difficult question. How do we do serious play without forgetting that we are playing? And yet forgetting that we are playing, because otherwise we will not really lose ourselves in that. and it will have absolutely no effect on us. That is the question which I'm trying to discover by doing, I suppose. I don't know. May she help us. May the spirit of Sophia be with you.